Alright, so today, continuing in our holiday tradition, we're going to make some pumpkin pie. We're going to take all this stuff right here, turn it into some very delicious pumpkin pie. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 2 eggs, we're going to crack them in here, and we're going to take a couple tablespoons of ice water, 4 to be exact, and we're going to mix it all together. We're going to set this aside. This is going to go in the dough, but we can take care of this first. So there's 1 egg. There's 2 eggs. Now the ice water. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Now we're going to mix this together. Obviously, you see some spilling out on the sides. We're going to go ahead and clean that up. But here you go. And then we're going to set this off to the side. We're going to start on the pie crust. All right, so next we're going to start on the dough. I'm going to start with 2 cups of flour. There's 1. There's 2. And we are going to add to it 2 sticks of butter. You want to make sure it's nice and cold, chopped up. So there we go. And then we're going to kind of get in here with our hands, and we're just going to kind of crumble it all together and mix it up. Make sure you break up the butter chunks and just kind of mix it all in. And you want kind of a crumbly texture to it. And this is important because you're going to put this in the dough, and it's going to make little butter pockets, so when you bake it, it's going to be nice and moist throughout the entire thing. It's going to be great. Excuse the noise in the background. That's my dog playing with a bone. So this crumbly texture here, this is what you want. All the butter nice and mixed in. All right, so there we go with the doughy flour mix. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. Don't add too much. You don't want it to be too salty. And then we're going to add our egg and water mix. We're going to mix this up. All right, so once you get your dough how you want it, we're going to take some plastic wrap. We have that down right on the counter. And we're just going to push all this dough out onto it. We're going to let it sit for about 30 minutes in the fridge. This is going to allow the dough to rise a bit. So, there we go. All right, so I just took a little bit extra flour and sprinkled it in there. And we're just going to wrap it up, just like a package. I'm going to kind of form it into I guess what looks like a pie lump, I guess. But we're going to take this, we're going to set it in the fridge for 30 minutes. We're going to let it chill. And in the meantime, we're going to make the filling. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is a tablespoon of cinnamon. You can see I already dropped a little bit in there as I was trying to measure it out. So here we go. A tablespoon of cinnamon. We're going to go a teaspoon of crushed cloves. We're going to do a teaspoon of crushed ginger. We're going to do a teaspoon of nutmeg, half a teaspoon salt, half a cup of sugar, half a cup of brown sugar. We're going to do 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. We're going to do 4 eggs. We're going to do 1 can of whole sweetened condensed milk, 14 ounces. My dog is kind of going crazy on that bone. That's what you hear in the background. Alright, so there's 1 can. We're going to do 1 tablespoon of honey. Alright, we're going to do half a cup of half and half. Alright, and last but not least, we are going to use pre-made pumpkin puree. This is just Libby's, but if you want to use an actual regular pumpkin, what you're going to do is you're going to cut it up. You're going to remove all the insides, sort of like you're carving a pumpkin for Halloween. All the stringy stuff, all the seeds, you're going to get all that out. You're going to be left with, you know, the meat of the pumpkin. You're going to cut that up. You're going to put it in the oven, 350 for about 40 minutes, 35 to 45 minutes. And then you're going to take it out and take the skin off. And once you cut up that the meat of the pumpkin, you would stick it in a food processor, and that is what would become, that would be your pumpkin mix instead of our pre-made canned pumpkin mix. So we're just going to use this, and we're going to do 1 whole can. There we go, 1 whole can, and we're going to mix this up. Alright, I went ahead and mixed it. I saved a little bit of camera time. Just mixed it off camera. This is what you want. Realize it will be very soupy, but once we pour it into the pie crust and bake it, it's going to firm up a little bit. So, alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put some flour down on our clean surface. We're going to get our pie dough. We're just going to drop it right there in the middle. And we are going to start shaping it into a pie crust. So we're going to be using the rolling pin here, rolling it out a little bit, and getting it generally shaped pie standards. Alright, so here we go. I just kind of rolled it around a little bit. I use the palm of my hand and kind of just push it down a little bit before we ever hit it with the rolling pin. So you can kind of get it however you want it shaped prior to the rolling pin. So I kind of get a rough circle like that. And then we're going to hit it with the rolling pin a few times. Alright, so here we go. This is our pie plate. You want it slightly bigger than your pie plate so that you can have a little bit of dough up on the sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the rolling pin and we're going to roll the dough up on it and roll it back over the pie pan. Alright, so here we go. You want to make sure that you go around the sides here and just lift gently and use a finger to kind of press into the corner of the pan there. You don't want to stretch the dough. You just want it to kind of settle in there on its own. So, there we go. And we are going to go around and trim this excess dough off. And for that, we're just going to use a pair of scissors. All right, so we're all trimmed up around the outside. Now, you'll see that I kind of went around and made a little bit of a ridge just around the edge there. Now, there's nothing to say that you can't put a pie in exactly how it is right now, because what we're going to do is we're going to pre-bake the crust. But why not get a little fancy with it, right? So, we are just going to take our knuckle and 2 fingers, and we are going to knuckle up one side and pinch down the next. Sort of like that. We're just going to do that all the way around. Alright, so that's the finished product. And we're going to pre-bake this. So we're going to put it in the oven for 400 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes. Before we put it in, we are going to get some plastic wrap or wax paper, whatever you have. We're going to line the inside and we're going to fill it. You can fill it with anything, chickpeas, rice, and that's just to hold the form of the pie while it bakes. Alright, so here we go. There is our wax paper. Like I said, we're just going to use some rice. And really kind of make sure that the rice fills the, the whole shape of the pie crust here. We're just using it to weigh it down at this moment, so you don't want any weird crinkles or anything like that. So here we go. We're going to put this in the oven on 400 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes. Alright, so here we go. In the oven. 20 minutes on the clock. Alright, so here we go. Right at about 20 minutes. Our pie crust is nice and baked all the way around. Nice and firm. So we're going to go ahead and remove this rice filler here and then go ahead and put the pie filling in. Alright, so what we're going to do before we put the filling in, there's the pie filling, we are going to brush the sides of this crust here with some melted butter. So, just put the butter in the microwave for 30 seconds. Nice and melted. And we're just going to brush around the sides of this crust here. And we're going to make sure to get the entire thing. Alright, so we got the crust nicely buttered, and we're going to go ahead, take the mix, and just go ahead and pour it in. Alright, so here we go, and we are going to go ahead and put this in the oven. We're going to start out really high heat to get the top kind of, crisp and nice and firm. So we're going to start out at 425 for about 15 minutes. And then we're going to back it down to about 350, and we're going to do that for another, around 35 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and put that in. Alright, so there we go in the oven. I usually use the bottom rack or middle rack, because I feel like it creates more of a cocoon of heat around the pie. So we're going to go ahead and let this cook 425 for 15 minutes and then back it down to 350 for another 35. Alright, so here we are 30 minutes in. We are looking good. I'm going to show you guys a quick way to tell if a pie is done, a pumpkin pie specifically. If you move it a little bit and you see the center is jiggling, that means it is not done. So you just want to cook it until it is firm. So here we are with our pie. You can see I did a little bit of poking around in there. Basically, you're going to take a knife and insert it. And when it comes out clean, relatively clean, that's when you know it's done. So I make sure to get a good spread, like I do about an inch around from the inside of the crust. And then I also do kind of in the middle. So it's coming back with just a little bit of stuff on there, but for the most part, it's coming back clean. So we're going to call that done, and we are going to let this thing sit and cool. That way the filling can settle a little bit. All right, so now that our pie is set, we are going to put some cream on it. Now, please ignore the cut up top. I just put these lines on there so that you guys could see. You want to do one little dollop of cream on each section of the pie. And there we go, finished pumpkin pie. If you guys have any questions, let me know.